into our second statement about whether or not we're going to be able to cover this 6.5 point spread this opening weekend against Cal. For anyone watching who doesn't know what point spreads are, much like me about a week ago when I didn't know what point spreads were either. Point spreads are essentially the point difference you're going to see from each team. The negative number next to the team shows how many points they should be up by the end of the game. Surprisingly, I think it was Bet Online or some website like that with a bunch of like couch quarterbacks who do betting results and whatnot for people. They listed us as being up 6.5 points by the end of the game. Some background on that: the series record for us versus Cal has been 52, 41, and 3, with us leading. We've lost the last two, and we've lost 3 of the last 5. Prior to that, we were on a 6-game win streak. That's about it for history between us and Cal. Nathan, do you think we're going to do well? You think we're going to fail? You think we're going to make some people happy, or are we going to upset some people?
So I'm not a betting man, but I would. I don't think the Huskies quite cover the spread. I look at recent games against them. You touched on the last 2 games. The Huskies lost to Cal, and then the point differential in those games were a combined 3. Last year we lost by 1. The year before we lost by 2. I think this game's going to be more of the same. I do think the Huskies will win, but I think it'll be a field goal game. I'm looking at it as maybe 17-14 Husky win. I see the Cal's advantage, probably clear advantage, is at the quarterback position with Chase Garbers, their quarterback, who happens to be Ethan Garbers, the Husky true freshman quarterback's brother. So, I mean, maybe we get a brother versus brother week 1. That would be wild. But just with Cal, Chase Garbers, he's a veteran quarterback. He's been on their team for a few years. He's done good. And then we look at the Husky quarterback situation. I mean, Jimmy Lake, as just today at the press conference he said they're still giving equal reps to all 4 quarterbacks. They don't yet know who's going to be the starter. He said at the scrimmage tomorrow, 9 a.m., after that, he'll figure out who the starting position is, but he won't announce it before the game. So going into that game at 7:30 will be the first time we know who the starting quarterback is. And I look at, so Cal's got the advantage there, but then other positions, I think UW might have the advantage on most of the other positions. Just especially in the secondary is where UW's clear advantages, with Cal losing both their starting safeties, Jalen Hawkins and Ashton Davis. And when you're in a game like this, this has been the longest layover time, I guess, between games these players have ever had, probably, from when they were playing Pee Wee football. I mean, the season ended last year in December for most of these people, so they haven't played a game of football since then. Usually they'd have already started in September. But with that, there might be some players who have mental lapses, and especially in a secondary that has new players. I think if the Huskies can get Rome going deep, I think he could maybe burn a corner, and that long touchdown could be the difference. So I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to which team makes the least amount of mistakes. And with UW,
absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to agree with you there. Like what you're saying was straight facts. But yeah, just to jump on that, it's going to be just an incredibly close game. I mean, you mentioned it, we lost by 1 last year, lost by 2 the year before that. Like running in stride with that, our 5 losses from last season in total, those came out to a difference. I think it was 26 points, which is an average of about 5.2 per game. 5.2 per game. And we only had 1 game where our loss was greater than 6 points. And like our defense hasn't lost too many key players. So like I'm thinking our defense is solid. There's not going to be any overhauls. There's no new, like super new defensive strategy or coordinator or anything like that. All of the questions for UW are going to come on the offensive side of the ball. You discussed the quarterback situation. I mean, everybody knows that we have John Donovan now, which is like just completely new pro style offense, and seeing how well that clicks. But I don't think Cal has as big of an advantage as I think you made it out to be. I mean, yes, they have home field, but there's no fans in the stadium, and if there are, there's going to be so few that doesn't play a part at all. I mean, the only real home field advantage I could put towards Cal is the flight. I mean, there's no time zone change. There's no jet lag. Maybe you get cramped up on the flight. I don't know. Is UW as superstitious about the turf monster as the 49ers were in week 2 of the NFL? Let's pray that doesn't happen, because he was out and about and attacking everybody in week 2 of the NFL. But for this Cal game, it's such a tough decision. I've been trying to figure out for the past hour and a half, I think, leading up to this episode and this segment, about what side of this I'm leaning on. And it honestly comes down, I think, personally, to that old adage where, like, every coach has described it. If you've played football, if you've been around football long enough, you've heard it. Every football game comes down to like 3, 4, 5 plays. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know where they're going to be in the game. You don't know how long they're going to be. You don't know what side of the ball they're going to be on. But the game's decided on those 3, 4, 5 plays. I think this game is going to come down to 2 or 3 plays, and those 2 or 3 plays are going to be tough. They're going to be really long breaks of some sort or another. And I think one of them is going to come at the very end of the game, whether it's OT or just before the clock expires, and it's going to be a field goal. I'm not expecting a blowout. I don't think the spread's going to be 6 points in either direction. I don't think either team's going to score more than 21 points. I'm excited to see this opening weekend. I think it's going to be absolutely insane. But I think this is the first time on this show I have not been able to give a definitive answer about what side of the ball I'm taking.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. It's going to be a defensive battle. I mean, the Huskies' defensive backs are basically all back from last year. So that'll help against a veteran quarterback like Chase Garbers when you have Elijah Mold and Trent McDuffie in the back end there. And then you look at Cal's defensive losses of the safeties I mentioned, but maybe the most important loss for them is Evan Weaver, their middle linebacker, their heart and soul of the team. So I look at it as maybe that'll open up the run game a bit for UW with Richard Newton, who this will be his first year kind of getting a lot of the touches with Savon Ahmed leaving last year. But then Richard Newton, even last year, he got a lot of touches. I mean, he had 10 touchdowns last year. So it's not like he's a true freshman. And touching on all the losses the Huskies have had with losing 3 offensive linemen, the new running back, new wide receivers, new quarterbacks. But then you look at who they replaced those guys with. They were kind of veteran players. Offensive line consists, the projected starting offensive line, because we don't yet know, it's 2 sophomores, 2 juniors, and a senior. So it's not like it's a bunch of freshmen. So that'll help Husky leadership up front and help the run game, help the new quarterback be able to lean on something. And that's why I think it's going to be kind of a low-scoring game, just because I think it'll be a lot of running, so the clock will be running a lot. And like you said, I think a field goal will decide it. Maybe, like you said, the last play of the game-winning field goal, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'd be nice depending on who's kicking the ball and who's going to be scoring those points, but it's definitely going to be an interesting game. Definitely one to watch, even if you're not a Huskies or a Cal fan. I don't know why you're on the show if you're not a Huskies fan, really. Shout out to the guy who commented if you're not a Huskies fan. Haha. Heading into the next segment, though,